Due to recent events, I've really been struggling on how to feel, and I think I've landed on sad. Not because anyone of any value was lost recently or anything like that. As the saying goes, for some people, the best thing that they can do for this world is leave it. I'm sad that I live in a country that I was propagandized into believing for the majority of my life was the greatest country on earth, but it's a country where even the facade of that greatness has now decayed to a place where political violence is commonplace. Nations I want to be a proud citizen of don't have commonplace politicized political violence. Now, I want to be very clear. I lost absolutely no sleep last night over the fact that a vile, misogynistic white supremacist no longer plagues this planet with his presence. But I do think he does deserve some respect and consideration. In fact, the same amount of respect and consideration that he gave the Hortmans and the Hoffmans just a few short months ago, which was to blame patriotic Americans for using their First Amendment right to free speech to stand up against fascism and tyranny in their country. I know, such the advocate of free speech we've all been hearing about, right? Shocker, smearing a duly elected president and calling him a king or a fascist is going to lead to political radicalization and violence. Because you never did that, Charlie, right? Never smeared a duly elected president, said he stole an election, called him a communist and a Marxist. Never peddled wild, radicalizing conspiracy theories. Shocker, being a fascist leads to political violence. And he doubled down on it, essentially saying that the Hortmans and the Hoffmans deserved the political violence they received because people called out fascism and white supremacy. And furthermore, I judge every single person's reaction today based on their reactions on June 14th. If you didn't have the same energy posting the same things on the day Minnesota lawmakers, their families, their dog were gunned down in their fucking homes as an act of political assassination and terrorism, I don't care how you feel today. See, neither of these assassinations should have happened, and violence like this should be strongly condemned. But condemning it doesn't change the fact that it will happen again, probably soon, for the exact same reasons these ones happened, and that is all of the politicizing propaganda and rhetoric that was turned into an art form by our dearly departed. But it's not just him and random influencers getting rich in rubles. It starts at the top. It's the president. Yesterday, every single Democratic leader that I can think of came out and strongly condemned the violence and offered their condolences to the families. But when Minnesota lawmakers were brutally attacked and assassinated in their homes, the president could barely be bothered to acknowledge it. He didn't call the governor to offer his condolences and support. He didn't go to the funeral. He damn sure didn't order the flags at half-mast. But a community college dropout who made a career traveling around the country to groom children with misogynistic white supremacist propaganda in order to radicalize them into his political movement, and Trump is showing us just how limber he actually still is as he bends over backwards trying to turn that hate monger into a mega martyr. And it's not just this, he just called a dissenting member of his own party an insurgent who needed to be eliminated. You don't think that that's rhetoric inciting political violence? Remember, he incited a violent, seditious overrunning of the Capitol building and then pardoned every single person involved. He offered to pay the legal fees of anyone who would assault somebody he didn't like. He just turned a school shooting into a demonization of trans people. And he ignored the Colorado school shooting entirely because he is so focused on making a man who is laying in the coffin he made into a hero. But it's not just him, it's leaders like Utah Senator Mike Lee. Remember all the things he had to say after the Hortman shooting? He couldn't even muster thoughts and prayers. It was just immediately conspiracy theories and slander, doing his best to blame it on who he views as his political enemies. Once again, they seem to deserve it when they're Democrats. You don't think that rhetoric incites political violence? And it's not just them, it's all of you. All of you so desperate to remain in this cult of personality, so desperate to cling to your tribe no matter how ridiculous, toxic, and violent it has become. You'll twist yourself into pretzels even Simone Biles couldn't achieve to make any situation, no matter how traumatic, gruesome, or tragic it may be, fit your political narrative and preconceived notions. Vance Bolter hadn't even been apprehended, and you all were doing physics-defying gymnastics trying to turn that radical right-wing Christian terrorist into some liberal hired by Walls. And I have people to this day still peddling that bullshit. And this suspect hasn't even been apprehended, and y'all are doing the same fucking thing. You don't know who the hell he is. He could very well be some right-wing extremist. Just like the guy who shot at Trump, like the guy who shot at the firefighters in Idaho. He could be trying to make a martyr, start a civil war, because that's where this radicalization has been leading these people for decades. Or it could be a loved one of somebody who died at the hands of the FSU school shooter earlier this year. Another white supremacist who is groomed and radicalized in Turning Point USA by your brand new MAGA martyr. Hell, if we want to get into the conspiracies you guys always get into, this could have been planned from the man in the Oval Office himself. Plenty of motivation salvation. I mean, the weight of the Epstein scandal is crushing the president and plenty of powerful people, and they've tried every other distraction with little success. Midterms are approaching, and even with rigging congressional districts in Texas, it may not be enough to hold on to their grip of power, something a shiny new martyr could certainly help with. And Trump is certainly looking for ways to demonize and disarm anybody who dissents against him, and what better justification than this? And if we really wanted to keep going down that rabbit hole, there is that suspicious video floating around. You know, the one where right before the shot is fired, a man adjusts his hat in a very awkward way like he's giving a signal, and another man touches his arm in a weird way like he's giving a signal. And then they arrest some old man while the shooter mysteriously slips away from a big crowd with heavy security and cops fucking everywhere. With what little information we have now, which is basically none, we could easily turn that into a narrative. It's exactly what many of you are doing right now and have done every single time before. At least this narrative is plausible, unlike the batshit stuff y'all come up with. And you know what? It's absolutely plausible too that it is somebody on the left who is radicalized by the same shit we are all exposed to and committed a heinous act. And even if it is, it doesn't matter. The reality of last week is the reality of next week. And that is that the economy is crashing. There are children dying of preventable diseases for the first time in decades. We are on the brink of World War III as Russia violates NATO airspace. We have the U.S. military occupying U.S. cities. And we have a prolific international child sex trafficker and pedophile as president, with over half of Congress and a justice system covering for him. So some Nazi propagandist who said himself this demise that he met was worth it, he doesn't deserve an ounce of our attention. Honestly, even who the shooter is or what his motives were do not matter, because the shooter is not the problem. He is simply a symptom of the problem. He ironically removed a cog in the wheel of that problem, but that problem existed before, and it will continue to exist until we demand accountability from the people in power causing this problem. And we cannot fall into a trap of squabbling about a man who doesn't matter, allowing the people in power to hide behind that and continue evading accountability and eroding our democracy. Stay focused. We all have far more important things to worry about.